Within 4 effing months of implementing this plan, she had a $60,000 cash month. Same client, completely different business structure and strategy. From 20K pushing, chasing to a 60K month that felt effortless, easy, like certain, and building that recurring revenue so that she starts the next month at 20, at 25, at 30K.
What's up, Savages? You're listening to the Strategies of a Savage CEO podcast. I'm your host, Demi, and if you don't know me yet, it is no wonder you're not making the sales that you want to be making in your business, but that's about to fucking change. I've scaled my business to almost 8 figures in revenue over the past few years, and I've helped thousands of women make the money they deserve. Not through fluffy things like manifestation or energy work, but through real, non-BS money-making strategies that drive insane results. I'm talking things like crafting powerful content rooted in actual human psychology so that you know every single time you post it's going to convert. I'm talking about designing irresistible offers and building recurring revenue streams in your business structure. I'm talking about implementing real systems that actually scale your business into a 7-figure brand. It is time for you to go full savage mode with your business strategy to truly get the results you not only want but deserve. So let's get into the episode.
All right, today we are talking about my absolutely incredible client and how we took her business revenue from $20,000 a month in January to just 4 months later, her closing her highest cash month at $60,000. That's a really big leap in a very short amount of time. And I want to walk you through how we actually created such a jump in her revenue. But let me tell you a little bit about the backstory. So, this woman, when she joined my mentorship, one of the things that she said in our initial pre-screening process of, making sure that she was going to be an excellent fit for us to work together, she told me that she was making $20,000 every single month, but that every single month it felt like it was a push for her to continue to maintain that level of income. And she didn't have the security in building from recurring revenue. She was pushing, selling, launching, flash sailing her way to 20K months every single month, right? She was in this like guessing game of what can I sell next to bring in the cash? And she was constantly on. She had this feeling like she always had to whip up another micro offer just to warm up her audience. And she didn't really have the clientele that she wanted. The way that she built her business also in a way trained her audience to respond to her flash sales and to her discounts and to her, hype and excitement for different offers rather than actually looking at investing with her high ticket long term to build her recurring revenue so that she started every single month at 20K instead of having to push every single month to make it be a 20K month, right? And then one week she would be motivated, the next she'd be burnt out, she'd be overwhelmed, she'd be wondering like, how the F am I actually supposed to grow this? And she knew that she actually couldn't keep going like this. And she came to me and she was like, listen, I see your clients, they are making $100,000 a month and you're making all this money and it looks like it's easy for you. You're still living your life. I feel like I've lost that part of me from just trying to push to hit these numbers. And it's not the fact that she didn't have clients, but she didn't always have the ones, like I said, she wanted. She didn't know how to actually stack her revenue, how to change and shift her messaging, how to appeal to a client that wanted to come in and pay higher ticketed and stay with her longer term. And she didn't have the proper, backup for selling high ticket. And one of the things that she said to me in our initial call that we had together was that she was sick and tired of feeling like a second choice in her ideal client's buying decision. She would have clients that would come in and ask about her programs and all of these things, but also have a lot of objections, and then the next day or week she'd see that they've hired another mentor that was actually double her price, and she always felt like she was like this second choice. And like I said, while she had cash coming in, it because of all these bent up feelings that she had, a little bit of resentment towards the current clients, the people in her audience, the way that she was building business, she felt that all of the time, effort, energy, everything that she was doing, it didn't really feel like all of that effort was adding up. every single month. And like I said, $20,000, that's nothing to bat an eye out. It's a big amount of money, but having to push for it every single month is not the type of business that you want to be building. When I looked at her offers, when I looked at her pricing, the whole structure of her business, we saw that she was undercharging, and I think that she also knew that. She was like, Demi, I knew you were gonna call me out on this shit. Like, I was just prepared for it. I knew things were gonna have to change when I came into your world, but she was like, this is why I'm hiring you. Like, I know that things have to change and I need you to push me to do it. She knew her offers weren't built for the version of her that had also evolved. And deep down, like, she just knew this business that she had built was not sustainable. So, you know, I remember on our very first call, I asked her, I didn't ask her, how do you get more sales, right? I asked her, what kind of business do you actually want to run? And from there, on that first initial call, we mapped out her entire course of action to scale. We looked at the refinement of her offers, her pricing, her messaging, her ideal client, the way in which she was going to stack her revenue. And that was the moment everything shifted for her, right? So, couple of things that we did, I'll go into a little bit of detail here, is we audited and refined her entire offer suite for her current capacity and the ideal client journey. So there was a few gaps that I definitely saw in the way that she had created her product suite, where she was leaking profit every single day, every single time that she sold, right? And then building for the long term. So long-term scalability and making sure that those offers were not meant for people who couldn't afford her high ticket. They like all of the offers that were on her customer journey all made sense in the sense of leading her highest level of client to have touch points, but to her highest level offer, right? Because that's the idea we wanted to stack revenue from. This is why this $60,000 a month was possible, right? Because we focus on high ticket sales and recurring revenue. So then we had to clean up all that messaging to call in that specific level of client, right? And also repel anybody who maybe was currently in her audience, but was not the ideal client, the ones that drained her, that had the objections, that didn't have that long-term mindset, right? So the people that she was no longer aligned with. And then we really had to look at like, I had to be firm with her on the capacity. So, when she would plug into Voxer, she would say, oh my God, like I had this idea for a flash sale, or I had this idea to do, and I'm like, hold up, how does this actually lead to our goal, right? So it's not that we didn't have room for the magic and the excitement of the ideas on the spot, but we also wanted to make sure that we were getting her to a place where her business felt profitable and her business felt like she was having the revenue that she wanted to bring in without having to do these micro offers. So everything then could be overflow. And then, of course, we prepped a launch and sales strategy for these refined signature offers. And this was rooted in intentionality around, like I said, long-term revenue. So there was no just running off those fumes and cash injections. So it took us one call, our very first call together, to create this roadmap that actually felt like her future. And she ran with it. And within 4 effing months of implementing this plan, she had a $60,000 cash month. Same client, completely different business structure and strategy. From 20K pushing, chasing to a 60K month that felt effortless, easy, like certain, and building that recurring revenue so that she starts the next month at 20, at 25, at 30K, right? These results didn't come from her doing more. It wasn't about going and posting more. It wasn't about creating more offers, right? It came from her moving differently. And she stopped playing the game of like, let me squeeze one more client in my calendar here and let me do a cash injection here. And she stepped fully into that leader and CEO era of a company. And this is what I care about with women that are coming into my mentorship and that are coming into my world is I want you to really start looking at business as building a company. None of this like schoolgirl shit, where you're just trying to, be on Instagram and get a sale. Like we're looking at long term of a company. You're stepping into building something that actually puts you into retirement, like that you don't have to show up for constantly to make sales. And the best part of this is that after everything that we implemented of her, going from a 20K month to a 60K month, she did that with so much more space on her calendar. We tripled her monthly income and half the time she was spending with clients, all without the client experience ever failing to deliver, right? That was always at the forefront. Her cash grew, her energy expanded, her standards for herself and her clients rose. Everything started to change. The brand, the way she was perceived online, the authority, the respect that she had from clients because of her messaging and how she was showing up, it all changed. And this is the work that changes everything. that clarity, that refinement, that mentorship that takes you from where you are right now to where you actually know you are supposed to be when you actually start looking at running your company like a company and not just a little Instagram business, right? And the thing is you've evolved so much since your last investment in mentorship. You've evolved so much since you first started even making good money in business, but it also is now time for your results to match and for you to start looking at your company as just that, right? And looking at the longer term of this vision that you're building. When you want to do that, when you want to have my support on everything that you need to look at structurally in a business, strategically in a business to scale, my masterminds are where you need to be, right? It is built with you in mind, the scaling woman, the creative, the one who does want to go fast, but also needs to be held through this evolution and be shown how to actually build a company that scales and that lasts and that does it on a repeat basis without you having to be on all of the effing time. So, when you are ready to have that sort of support and clarity and certainty and to build a business that actually you feel secure in every single month and that allows you to also live a very freedom-based life, that is when you hire me. That is when you come into my masterminds. And if you want to chat about my mastermind and what this looks like for you, you need to go and DM me on Instagram and we need to open up that conversation. But I'm letting you know right now, you are somebody who is wanting to scale to those high cash months, 30K, 40K, 60K, 100K and beyond. That is when you need my level of hands-on mentorship that is going to change the game for you.